Dude, I think that
All right, I'm good.
okay, so we are going to point out a good location for. Let me go ahead and kill the engine here so we can hear. We're gonna point out a good location for. This is gonna be for squads. It's 2 or more players. You could do this solo if you've got the fortitude to do such a thing.
I
Um,
actually know somebody who's done this solo.
oh, okay.
In one of my comments, yes, they said, and I didn't mean to interrupt or
Oh, go ahead.
interject, but the spot that we're actually going to show you guys, I've done a short video on, and the person who said they've done this said it didn't take them too long because they were next to an industrial site. So, go ahead.
No, it's good. This this build, you could totally do it solo, but we're gearing it towards like a squad base. But more importantly, we're in 105, and this is the stuff that's coming for us hopefully soon. This being October 2nd when we're shooting this. But we're trying to focus on builds or just builds that we've done in the past or locations that'll be friendly to you building, or let me rephrase it. Basically, so people can't vault into your base because vaulting is going to be a thing in the very near future. So people can just scale over fences, which in the past we've used before for protection to help cut
Hmm.
back on building costs. Because now in 105, you cannot duct tape glitch, so building takes a lot longer. And people, it'll take longer for them to break in, but like more importantly, people can just jump in if you just have a fence going. So we're actually going to head into this location. Let me just give it a quick look here on the old mappy poo. We're in Cherno. Cherno being a large area here. This we call this area here, or to the right, Cherno Industrial, which we're actually sitting. Let me go ahead and pull my marker down. We're sitting like right about here. Whoops. No. No. Oh. Oh, okay, it's not gonna let me do it because apparently I'm not signed in properly. But anyways, we're sitting right here. Jeez. Yeah, oh wait, I'm sorry. We're sitting right here, and we're gonna be heading into Cherno City, this gray area. And again, we're just below this railroad track, this black and white line here, which represents tracks. So we're just gonna drive into the spot right now. Yeah.
Now,
Go ahead.
and if you aren't familiar with this spot, this is how because I use iSurvive, but obviously I don't bring the map up on the screen, but I can explain this pretty easy. There's two industrial um, places in Cherno. There is the east industrial site and the west industrial site. This is right on the west industrial site. You'll be able to see it if you keep going west on the coast. So that's how I know where it is, and that's how I kind of can remember it without a map. So if you're on the west industrial part of Cherno, this is the part of the city that's next to it.
All right. So we pulled up to the location. We're gonna head to the entrance, or the area you need to bottleneck. Now, we'll show the choke point first, but we'll also show ways you can start off on the cheap side because let's be honest, with the new changes, even with 104, if you're building, but especially in 105 with the restrictions and duct tape and everything else, you want to start small. But let's go ahead and show like the choke point. Actually, let's show the choke point and then we'll walk around the perimeter as we were like talking about some of the finer points, and then we'll move into like
Yeah.
the cheap build
This
on
is
the
like
inside.
this is like one of my favorite building locations in the game.
It's awesome. Like the more you start thinking about this, okay, so the only way to get into this section, and this is why this is so juicy, and it's going to be expensive to cover, but it's literally its own peninsula, and this is the only way to enter this said peninsula. So if you can rope this off, and it's pricey, like to do this with fence kits and everything else. Here, you want an extra fence kit? Here you go. Just kind of show positioning. It's right there at my feet.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Um, and it's going to be tricky to get some of these roped off, but people can't vault over what they can't reach. And another quick note, if you didn't know already, in 105, any player-built structure, other players cannot vault over. So even if it's a low wall and you could clearly jump over it, you cannot vault over it. That makes sense. So,
Mm-hmm.
so this place has a lot of spawn points in it to get you started on the inside of the area here. But like the biggest thing, I'm going to go ahead and walk around the perimeter here. Like if you choke this off, at this neck point right here. That sounds terrible out of context. And you walk around, you see that this is entirely encased around water, and there's no way to get up. It looks like you can do it here, but actually you cannot.
Yeah. So basically, I did a video on this a long time ago, and I just kind of wanted to go over this. Now, somebody who was in my comments, I can't remember your name, but I'm gonna give you credit for this anyways. They actually did this build solo. They said it took them like 6 walls or 7 just to be safe. Um, so basically, the strong points of this location, the reason why I covered this before, is A, you're in a city, right? So you're gonna get food and all the essentials and the resources that you need to live. Okay. You have the PD and the train station near you, and you also get this beautiful choke point that Jade's talking about right now. And obviously, this is all going to be player-built walls. Okay, so nobody can vault over these or whatever. And you're using the canal as kind of a
A moat.
space, yeah, a moat around your base. And it's such a good base location for squads because you know what? You rope this off, dude. You have storage for days. All these buildings, you have tons of room for cars, and you don't have those prefabricated walls such as this one to vault over.
Yeah, go ahead and vault over it.
You know,
Those were good
like
before, but yeah, now look at Razor's just is like, see ya. And we've done
like
builds like that that are working currently, but yeah, with the new
yeah,
update, you're open.
yeah. With 1.5, the game changes, guys. Regardless if you like it or not, it's gonna change it. Now, obviously, we're streaming on the PC, but we cater to the Xbox or console community. Also PS4 players as well. But anyways, back to the build. You want to build this nice and tight. You want walls all the way across. It's going to cost you anywhere between 6 to 7 walls. And the beautiful thing is, to the east of you, you have the western Cherno industrial area. You go over there, you loot cycle, you grab all your mats, you bring it over here, and you start going to Pound Town on your walls and your choke point. It is expensive, like I said, 6 or 7 walls. But at the end of the day, you're going to end up creating a huge area for your squad. And if you're playing solo, you're going to have a lot of things at your disposal, at least when it comes to resources. Um,
Well, I mean, you're in the
like
city,
J-
so you've got access to a lot of stuff.
Mhm.
Like a lot of
And
stuff.
if you see Jade's little fence kit that he placed down, you'd basically create a straight line, or if you can't place a fence kit, you go diagonal, or you start building it the way you want to where you seal it off. I have tested this on the Xbox when I did this video. Um, there's no way to jump over this, guys. It's impossible. Like, you can try to raid somebody by jumping over this. It's not going to happen. I'm not going to jump in for the sole purpose of this video uh, because I'm going to have to swim all the way around and ain't nobody got time for that. But a good thing that I would like to point out is you're going to build this wall, and what I would build is one gate for your cars to pull in. Put barrels out like this behind your wall with some ammo and maybe some weaponry, and just be able to grab it, go up the steps, and start popping shots. That's if you have an active squad. If not, leave your weapons somewhere within this complex. Don't be that guy.
Or send them out with your ults.
Mhm. So yeah, or sign them out with your ults exactly. But depending on how active you are, you could leave one of these barrels out, and you could start popping shots at whoever's trying to raid you. Anyways, all right, let's. You want to kind of run around, or you got more for the choke point?
Um, we can run around to kind of show the perimeter, and we're gonna highlight maybe where to start and some of the juicier points here. So like, this is the choke point. But again, when you set up a choke point, just like anything else, you've heard us say this many times. Low profile is probably your best way to go. So an internal build that's very cheap is probably the way you want to start, and then you want to move towards that choke point because that's going to be an expensive rope off there.
Oh,
You know,
oh
like
yeah.
yeah, it's pricey.
It's gonna take you a little while to loot cycle all those mats, I'll tell you that much. And like Jade saying, you want something incognito for you and your squad, post up and start taking over this little island uh, real quick.
Well,
And I
check
mean,
this out. Like, we
you have
even have these
islands.
buildings to help like shoot back. 'Cause there'll be
Oh
people
yeah,
looting
man.
through here for sure. There's fresh spawns. There'll be other players coming through looking for cars. It's a
Mhm.
hotbed. I mean, it's Cherno City, so people will be around. But like, once you control that choke point, you can post up in these other buildings and the upper
Oh yeah,
windows and
man.
stuff. Like, and that's why
Right,
it's so juicy for a squad.
right at the choke point. If you didn't realize, there's actually a two-story building that you can actually start sniping people from. And what we're walking into now, this is awesome.
Oh, this
This is
is
one of
weird.
my favorite points.
Well, you've seen us do this before where we actually find an interior where we can place a wall or use lockpicks to start off. And then I would recommend stockpiling your inventory or your goods there first for building, and then start to build it up. That way you're low key, no one can see you, and well, less likely to see you. And then you can start to work towards doing those choke points. But check this out. Not only are there spawn points in here for like various types of loot, like we have garages here, which can be car parts, and actually sea chests spawn in here now, which I think they
Yep.
do in 104 now, which is nice. Um, but you've got
Tools,
yeah. Oh yeah,
mats,
tools are a big one.
there's
But like
rope
even
in
if you're
there.
not getting like good spawns here, you've got the entire city. I'm going to show the map here. You've got all these other garages here you can check. You've got the upper portion. You're next to the hospital, another great location. But look at all these sedan spawns potentially. There's a lot, so you can keep just skimming for these things over and over. And definitely with 105, you know you need the medical supplies. So being next to all those things is very key. And as Razor pointed out before, this industrial section out here is important for cycling through and finding all your mats for doing the build. But we're actually sitting right here. But if you look just below here, and we're going to walk on it, there's a car spawn on our peninsula. What? Doesn't mean it's always going to spawn there, but it could potentially spawn here.
Yeah, you have a certain percentage or chance where you can find this car
I think I roughly have the
spawning
car on
in.
it right there. It's going to spawn like
Yeah.
basically here.
Yeah, it's basically on the south side of this island,
But look at this.
the southeast corner of it.
Once you create a stronghold here and you start to take over these buildings and stuff like, and you got a larger crew, you can just start posting up like larger towers here on the edge. You're like, oh, I see a scrub on the beach. Pop them, you know? We could just you have total control of the area because you don't have to worry about the ocean because nobody's coming from that side. You might have to worry about the lighthouse, but for the most part, once you take over this little peninsula, it's game over, man. Like, who's gonna?
Oh yeah,
And you got crews
nobody's gonna
signing
see
in.
you here. Mhm. Yeah,
Check.
if you have a big, a significantly large squad that spawns in here that's active, it's gonna be real hard for people to push you out of this area. There's a lot of high points, a lot of points you can rope off, and you can essentially make it your own compound to where you can make it a little bit more difficult for people to push certain areas. Uh, that being said, that courtyard that we were just in, you could definitely put cars there, loot. You don't have to be married to any certain building in this residential area because you have so much to work with that uh, you definitely have the option to put um, loot, cars, and whatnot wherever you want. Now, there is one thing that I will say that is kind of a con to this area, which I have mentioned before when I've built in this area. Um, in the courtyard, I wouldn't be putting your loot or you could put your loot randomly within here, but car-wise, since people can just hop over these walls, that wouldn't be the smart thing. I would basically stick your little car lots and your garages and your tents. At least this is my opinion. Jade might have a different one. Somewhere on the outside if you can. If you create walls and towers high enough to basically make your own little car garage on the outskirts, that'd be more beneficial for you because when vaulting comes into play, like Jade's saying, it's going to be a lot more, um, it's going to be easier for an opposing squad to jump over these walls and just get to your car quickly, and then they just start,
Just like,
doing
thanks for the
annoying
car.
things.
Thanks for gathering
Yeah,
all this stuff.
yeah, thanks for the loot, thanks for the parts. And I mean, yeah, I mean, it's cool to have the courtyard at your disposal, but realistically, this is good just to make a maze through, put gates where there's openings, and just kind of make them vault because obviously, since people in 104 aren't used to this yet, you haven't noticed with the vaulting, there is maybe like a second animation where this person with a gun cannot uh, actually shoot. So when they're doing this and they're trying to raid and stuff, when they're in the middle of climbing, it's fair game, man. Like, it is definitely fair game. So this would be a good area to rope off with gates and stuff, make it kind of harder for people to get in. But like I was saying, those car lots and those car tents need to be on the outside. That's the smartest way, I think, to do it. And if you don't do it that way and you choose to put your car in here, don't be that guy.
Just strip it at the very least. No matter where you
Yeah,
put it, strip it.
yeah, strip it down, like he's saying, and keep it minimal.
But check this out. For to kind of build off of, now that we showed some of the highlights of this area, to get started on the cheap end, even if you're rolling solo or with a group, you always want to make sure, I might have lost this already. You always want to make sure you're doing it on the cheap because I cannot express how much more expensive this is now that you don't have unlimited duct tape. And I know I've said it a million times, but until you're actually doing it, you're going to go, oh, wow. Yeah, that does take a lot more time. I don't know
It
where I
does
put
too.
this. I forgot. We were just in one of those apartments. I found a good place to rope off, and I set up one of the... Shoot, where was it? Is it this guy? I'll find it. Hang on. I think it was. Okay, yeah, I found it. All right, go back to the courtyard.
Yep.
There you are. Come on
Right
up.
by the red.
So, obviously these prefabs are all over the place, and it's whatever... There you are. So, this building is repeated throughout the city, so this could work in any of these prefabs that look like this, but boom, right here. We got a door we can lock. And that's weird. Is that a fence kit on the floor? Sure is.
Oh yeah, for sure.
You make a gate, and you're off to the race. You can start with this, lock it off, and especially if you've got a crew here looting, that's your crew. If you keep going back and forth, the likelihood of you controlling this area, even if you get jumped, is still very high because you're constantly here watching it and maintaining it, especially if you're in communication with your teammates. So even if
Yeah,
somebody makes a move, you'll clap them.
yep, and look at Jade's placement with this. He's obviously thought this through because he's putting the fence gate to where it blocks the door and the window.
Hmm.
So there's a very, very, very minimal chance for error when it comes to putting this up. He's blocking off the courtyard so nobody can snipe him. He's blocking off the most important thing to guard his loot, which is this doorway. Yeah, like he's saying, minimal. You want to build minimal. Um, see how much loot or mats you can do the old loot cycle on in the industrial area, and then move over to here. Obviously, we've done videos before in earlier updates where you couldn't vault over walls, but that's your best bet to start off.
Man, the more I walk through this, the more I love it.
Yeah, I know.
You know what I mean?
This is one of my favorite building locations out of the entire DayZ map. I love this area the most.
It's hot,
At
and it's
least for
close.
squads.
Well,
Yeah, it's super close to everything.
well, think about it. When you get clapped too, I'm gonna bring up the eyes revive. If you look at these light blue silhouettes here of like people, if something happens, you don't have to worry about the fresh spawns that much. But the fact
Yeah.
is that you can get clapped, and then if you get a spawn close, you can walk over, and then you can recoup because it's your location. Whether you
Yeah,
have things
exactly.
stashed or whether you just grab them out of a bag or something, whatever. So like you can get re-equipped because it's your place. So it's just I like it because the rebound is very quick and it works for two or more of a squad. And I know a lot of people roll deep. Usually people roll two or more. Usually I think the most common is like two, but
Yeah, it goes two
is
and
that
up most
rotten?
of the time. No.
Okay. Make sure it's not
There,
rotten.
there's actually a lot of I mean, yeah, there's a lot of lone wolf people out there that play DayZ on their own and whatnot, but to pull something off like this, you want to be two people or more, at least two people, because you need somebody cycling the loot and you need somebody building. It's got to be a constant thing over and over again, and you always want to have that type of momentum when you're starting this type of game, because if you're new to DayZ, it's a grind. There's a lot of elements that work against you, and building a base isn't easy in this game. Not by any means. It costs time, resources, manpower, everything. And I mean, just to have these minimal things set up for you guys to kind of get an idea of how to build here still costs us a lot of time to gather
And we had a
and get
car
in position.
when we did
Yeah,
it.
yeah. So it's like, and I mean, a car is a whole new thing that,
That's its
you
own,
know,
yeah, for
yeah,
sure.
that's its own thing. Yeah, if you think you're gonna get a car in DayZ right off the bat, you're playing the wrong game. If you think you're gonna build a fast base by yourself or with a squad and you're new to this game, you're 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 wrong. So don't be that guy and realize exactly what you're getting yourself into before you start doing a build like this. Yeah, I'm not saying don't do it, but I'm saying make sure that you know and you're prepared to take on a project like this when it comes to that, especially when you're on official servers. You got other squads to deal with. You're fighting for loot. You're not, like
Stay there.
doing
Keep going.
you're fighting for loot. You're not getting it and being like, "Oh, this is PvE," because you know what? If you haven't experienced the PvP in this game, you're going to find out real quick how hard it's going to be to get a car, get mats, to
Get
raid.
clapped.
Yep. Yeah, and when you get clapped in this game, it is the most unforgiving feeling you have ever felt. Unless you are an experienced DayZ player and you have like alternate characters, or you got your loot stash next to like a fresh spawn area to where you can walk up like this location, you're gonna feel it. So be prepared when you build somewhere in this type of area.
Yeah, I like this spot. And I think we're gonna make a hard push for this 104 and 105 when it comes out. So
Oh yeah,
it's very
105.
conducive to the vaulting that's coming in.
Yeah, and this is one of very uh, one of many, I should say, areas that we're gonna be going over in the next few weeks that are very, very conducive to building in 1.5. I think that pretty much sums it up, huh?
Yeah,
Right?
that's this location. We're gonna move on to raiding next.
Yep.
You want?
And
Sorry, go ahead.
basically, if you're new to the channel and you're seeing this in video form, welcome. I am RazorTube. This is Jade Monkey. We are the Boyfriend Squad. There's also BioLaser when we see him. So check these two guys out by going in the description below and clicking the link to their videos. And make sure you guys, if you're new to the channel and you like what you see, drop a sub, drop a like.
Do that thing. I would normally just rattle off a bunch of shots, but it's a little crazy. Here, I got my sound turned back up. Back up.